News Radio 700 WLW.
Rock, I saw this headline and I knew it had us written all over it.
Yes.
Snowflakeism. 75% of execs say most of the recent college grads they hired were unsuccessful.
They went on to say Gen Z employees are entitled, too easily offended, lazy, and generally unprepared for the workplace, according to their bosses.
Now,
so there you go.
Where does this come from?
That's a good question. I have my ideas, but I'm sure our guest has the expert information.
Well, we have him here, and he's got a truly inspirational story about overcoming adversity and such, and I'm sure we'll get into your story as we go here. But first off, welcome to the program, Scott Allen Curley.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
And so, Scott, let's talk about that for a minute. These kids, their lives haven't faced a lot of adversity in their life, and in a lot of cases, I would argue that their parents, it's the old helicopter parenting, have taken too good a care of them, and then when somebody pushes back on them, they don't know how to handle it.
I'm sure that has a lot to do with it. I've wondered that so many times myself, and I hate to bash our young people because they are so educated. They're in the we're living in the information world right now. We have more access to information than we ever have in the history of the world, and they're very educated. But something happened, and we're still trying to figure it out.
So yeah, I mean, I guess it's. I mean, I feel like it's just I'm a parent, and every parent wants the same thing. They want their children to live in a better world and be better than they were, right? So for instance, my dad, I'm the first boyman to go to college, right? My dad worked blue collar jobs. He's like, I want my son to go to college and be able to, kind of have more of a swath of careers he can go into, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, I feel like we've done that so often over the generations and generations that it's become to the point where it's moms and dads take care of everything, and then when you don't take care of things yourself, you don't learn how to do that. When true adversity hits, or a deadline is proposed, or your boss yells at you a bit, you're going to fold like a cheap tent.
Yeah, that's and I've seen that a lot. And I own about 4 businesses myself, and it's such a quandary because it started somewhere. And again, I don't want to be on your show bashing young people because they have so much potential and they're so talented. But one of the things that I think that has contributed to this is the addiction to social media.
Explain.
That is, I mean, it's a blessing and a curse because social media is very impactful and it is so many benefits to it. However, young people, it is like an appendage of theirs now, to where even in the workforce, I've seen personally firsthand where new hires would almost demand that they be allowed to have their phone on their desk, or else they're not interested in working for the organization. And that is a huge component or an issue in terms of what has created this problem.
Right. Where does that come from? Is it just the nature of the devices themselves? I mean, the stuff you read is, I mean, they're programmed by very smart people to be addictive. They hit the same brain receptors as fentanyl, right? Like that. Is that why young people are so dependent on their phones, or is it more than that? Is it more just like the desire to be a star or that kind of thing?
I think you just nailed it. I think it is truly a component of the disease concept, a disease of addiction. I mean, we are driven by the need for having clicks and likes. And young people, that is their whole world revolves around that, because this whole social media era began 20-ish years ago in its infancy, and look at who we're talking about now. We're talking about the Gen Zs who are in their early-ish 20s, and so this is the world that they know, and so it's a blessing in that we've come so far technologically, but it's also cursed because they're so dependent upon that it oftentimes distracts the young people from the task at hand. Because you can't focus on social media and acquiring likes and clicks and being productive at the same time in the workforce. It doesn't happen.
Exactly. We're talking to Scott Allen Curley here, and Scott, let's just get into your story for a minute here, talking about overcoming adversity and where you come from to get to where you are, because you're an entrepreneur, you're an author, motivational speaker, and whatnot. But explain exactly where you came from.
Well, it would take more than 5 minutes, but I'll give you the shortest version possible.
Why would I have you back again just to tell that story? But
Yeah.
but you came from literally hell.
It was and much of it was self-imposed. I'm not one to take the victim stance. I made a lot of very poor decisions. I was raised in a very dysfunctional family by two parents who were not bad people. They just weren't really prepared to be parents. And there's a saying that you can only give away what you have to give, and they just didn't have a lot to give themselves to teach me to make good decisions. And so I've developed this persona rather, to be what others wanted me to be versus really owning and understanding who I was. And eventually I imploded. I started doing a lot of drugs in the late 80s, early 90s, went back and forth to jail. I was probably in jail 40 times, went to prison 4 times, spent about 10 years in prison, and then I had an epiphany and just decided that even though I'm in this situation, I do not choose anymore to be of it, and made a mindset shift. And from there, I began building businesses and my life took a different trajectory, and here I am today, thank God, by God's grace.
Scott, do you mind sharing some of the details of that epiphany? Because I imagine there was probably 100 times during the course of your young life you're like, you know what, I'm going to change, and you never did. But then there was that last moment where whatever happened, and then you finally did. Can you share that with us?
I can, and I'm trying to be mindful and respectful of your time. But yes, when I was sentenced to 35 years for non-violent offense of stealing a car in 1991, at the age of 23, I was considered at the age of 22 actually a habitual criminal at 22 years old, because I was in and out so much. And at that point, I realized that I'm going to have to make some sort of a decision. Either this is going to be my life, or I'm going to make a conscious decision to change the trajectory. And I actually made that decision while I was locked up. I began reading books. I read over 1,000 books during that 5 years that I was incarcerated for that particular crime, and just decided to no longer be a victim. We don't choose whether or not we are victimized, but we do choose if we are going to remain being a victim. And I chose to no longer be a victim anymore.
It's truly inspirational, man. And again, we'd love to get into that deeper with you. But back to the topic at hand, you're saying you don't want to downgrade the young people, and granted, but is there blame to be placed on the parents, or the way that we are bringing these kids up?
Man, I think it has to be.
Right.
I've thought about that so much, and I'm like, what did we do? And again, I'm trying so hard not to bash our young people. They are smart. They have greatness in them. But somewhere we as parents, we missed the mark, because I will say this with all respect to these young people and to the parents, they have, in general, and not all young people, but many of them have such a sense of entitlement that the world owes them something. And the fact is, no one owes us anything. Everything that we get by either hard work or connections, but no one owes us anything. And so I think we tried so hard as parents to give our kids a better life that we may have contributed to this dilemma and this problem that we're facing with the young people right now.
So then, Scott, what is your advice for, again, we're talking about some kids, and maybe, their parents contributed to the problem and made them a little more entitled than they should be, and they're addicted to their phones, and they're not paying attention at work, and they're easily, what's your advice to those folks to, look, you can't change the past, you can only do things to help yourself in the future. So taking some cues from what you went through, what can that modern kid now, who had all those things happen to him, now set a course where they can succeed now?
One just quick thing is simply stop taking the victim stance. No one owes you anything.
Amen.
You have every opportunity to be successful and achieve great things, but the only thing that is keeping you from doing it is yourself. Get out of your own way.
Right?
Amen, brother.
With I think that's a great point to end on. And again, Scott, I'm serious. We would love to have you back sometime, man.
I would love to come back, and thank you for having me so much. I really enjoy and appreciate the opportunity to share the tidbits, and hopefully some people can learn from my ridiculous mistakes.
And the book is Absolution, The Dark Path to Light, and people want to find out more about you. What's that website?
They would simply go to scottallencurley.com. You can find the book there. I do a lot of a number of public speaking engagements. If you want schools, universities, conferences, you want me to come out and share my story and kind of show you how I see the world, then feel free to visit scottallencurley.com.
We appreciate it, man. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for having me.